Hello and welcome to the news update on AFRICUNIA TV, reaching from our studio in the nation's commercial capital, Lagos, Nigeria. My name is Deborah Ezeh. Many thanks for joining me. We begin from Nigeria, where ex-President Goodluck Jonathan yesterday escaped unhurt in a road accident in Abuja, although the crash left two of his police aides dead and others injured. The former president was said to have been on his way from the Ezeh International Airport to his residence in the Federal Capital Territory when the accident happened. It was learned that two security personnel attached to him, Inspectors Ibrahim Abazi and Yakubu Tama, were not as lucky as they did not survive the crash. Although it wasn't clear what caused the accident, Jonathan was said to have left Yenagoa, his hometown, for Abuja in the afternoon before the accident, which saw a number of the cars in convoy mangled. A statement released on the incident by the former president's spokesman, Ezeh, said that although safe, Jonathan was deeply saddened by the death of his aides. And still in Nigeria, the president, Major General Muhammad Buhari, retired, has written a letter to the House of Representatives informing the Parliament that the deficit in the 2022 Appropriation Act has raised by 965.45 billion naira to 7.35 trillion naira. Consequently, the president said the federal government would borrow funds to fill the gap. Buhari therefore called for an amendment to the federal government's budget and the fiscal framework for 2022. Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, read out the cover letter on the executive bill titled Submission of the Revised 2022 Fiscal Framework and dated April 5, 2022 at the plenary on Thursday. According to the president, there have been new developments both in the global economy as well as in the domestic economy, which has necessitated the revision of the 2022 fiscal framework on which the 2022 budget was based. Following this development, it has become necessary to adjust the fiscal framework and accordingly amend the 2022 Appropriation Act to ensure its successful implementation. In Mali, in a statement published late Wednesday, the Malian military prosecutor announced an investigation had been opened to shed light on the Moura operation. The intervention allegedly cost the lives of hundreds of civilians, in addition to more than 200 Islamist military, as so far acknowledged killing. In its report released on April 5th, NGO Human Rights Watch accused Malian armed forces, known as FAMA, and suspected Russian fighters of killing more than 300 civilians. The organization says its report was based on interviews conducted with 27 locals as well as foreign diplomats and security analysts. European Union High Representative Joseph Borrell, France and the US Department of State have urged Mali's transitional authorities to allow an international inquiry conducted by the UN Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali. And still on the African scene, Rwanda is enlisted among the African countries that have been facing soaring food prices due to conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Data also show that Russian wheat accounted for 64% of Rwanda's total wheat imports. The heavy reliance on wheat imports has forced the landlocked small country to look for an alternative importer, said Rwanda Prime Minister Edouard Irente in mid-March. According to an industry insider, the hostilities between Russia and Ukraine have an incremental impact on Rwanda's food import. Away from the African scene onto the foreign scene, Russia gave the most somber assessment so far of its invasion of Ukraine, describing the tragedy of the mounting troop losses and the economic hit from the sanctions as Ukrainians were evacuated from eastern cities before an anticipated major offensive. Russia's 6-week-long incursion has seen more than 4 million people flee abroad, killed or injured thousands, turned cities into rubble, and led to sweeping sanctions on its leaders and company. In a symbolic move, the UN General Assembly suspended Russia from the UN Human Rights Council, expressing grave concern at the ongoing human rights and humanitarian crisis. Russia has previously acknowledged its attack has not progressed as quickly as it wanted, but on Thursday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov lamented the rising death toll. And moving on, forces at the Iraq Ain al-Assad air base, which hosts US troops, intercepted and shot down a drone while it was hovering near the base early on Friday, US-led coalition and Iraqi security sources said. The forces using US air defense systems shot down an armed, unmanned aerial system entering the base around 1:46 a.m. The incident, which is under investigation, caused no injuries or damage, while Iraqi officials were not immediately available to comment. And still on the African scene, Ukraine said it aimed to establish up to 10 humanitarian corridors to evacuate trapped civilians on Friday, but civilians trying to flee besieged Mariupol will have to use private vehicles. The 10 planned safe corridors announced by Deputy Prime Minister Iran were all in southern and eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian officials said Russian forces have been regrouping for a new offensive, and that Moscow plans to seize as more territory as it can in the eastern part of Ukraine known as Donbass, bordering Russia. Vereshchuk said 4,676 civilians had been evacuated from Ukrainian towns and cities on Thursday. Mayor Vadim Boychenko put the civilian death toll in the port city on the Sea of Azov at about 5,000 over a week ago, and tens of thousands are still trapped without power and few supplies. Now away from the foreign scene onto the sports scene, following the Super Eagles' failed bid to qualify for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the country football faithful are divided over the nation's team's next head coach, and the Nigeria Football Federation has begun moves to hire a new coach after it tasked its technical and development subcommittee to begin the search for a gaffer for the national team. While no name has been mentioned as a possible candidate, there were reports that former Eagles coach Sunday Oliseh is in the position, while Egwavon on Monday also stated that he would love to return to the coaching position in the future. But fans heard different opinions on their choices of coach for the Eagles, while some insisting on the NFF hiring a local coach, while others backed a foreigner for the coach. And finally, Liverpool is set to complete the signing of Carvalho for Fulham after initially missing out on the winger on deadline day in January. It is understood that the 19-year-old will move to Anfield this summer on a 5-year contract. Carvalho's current deal expires this summer, and Fulham would be entitled to compensation set by a tribunal should the teenager join another English side at the end of that, while continental clubs would only need to pay a nominal fee. Carvalho has scored 7 goals in 29 championship appearances for Marco Silva's side this season, and also found the net in Fulham's 4-1 FA Cup defeat to Manchester City. And it's a wrap on news updates on AFRICUNIA Television today. Remember to follow all our social media platforms displaying on your screen, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also visit our website at www.africunia.tv to stay connected and updated to news and other programs. Once again, I am Deborah Ezeh. Have a beautiful weekend.